Welcome to One a Days with Baz. This is Baz, and today is day 22. This is my second time making a tutorial, and it's something I discovered myself, so I'm super psyched to share it with you all, and I hope you enjoy it. So today, we're going to really quickly make this together, and most importantly is the concept of how to implement this animation here, because I did it without any keyframes and it individually these are all clones. For all of these individual clones, it adjusts the brightness to give that effect. So that is the most important part. Let's dive right in. So I've already made a cube, a big cube. You can use these dimensions here, and once we've made it, we're going to make a rectangle, and then we're going to scale that rectangle up probably to the same dimension, so keep it a square actually, and then just scale it a little bit to give it that, and then we're going to rotate it. Click, hold shift 90 degrees. We're going to move it up. That's good. Now we're going to extrude it, and we're going to throw the caps off. Once again, this is a lot of stuff, so I'm just trying to work quickly. You can just watch what I'm doing, because I've already made this video so many times and I can't do this anymore, you know what I mean. Alright, let's clone this guy. Alright. Just try to find that distribution that you like. I'm saying more there, less here. No, did that wrong. Yeah, that's looking better. Alright. So yeah, and you just do the same. Get a look you like. Now that we have this cloned extruded rectangle, let's give that thing a texture. In our case, no color channel, luminance. And the magic happens with the texture here, which is a color shader texture, meaning that it's going to receive the colors from an outside source, namely an effector. Default reflectance is fine. Then we add the glow. And there's like a lot of glow for that big object to give it a really cool effect. This is just a guess. Not even going to bother rendering it. Let's apply the texture to the cloner so that it'll apply to all of these. And now let's work on individualizing the color. First of all, what you need to want to know is that in the cloner and transform is the actual color of these objects before any sort of modification happens. So if we start with black, that's kind of considered nothing. And we're going to get black because it's black. So I want that because I want it to go from black to white, but you can do it sort of with any color, I imagine. So anyway, we got that black going on. Now we're going to add an effector. So with the cloner selected, effector plane. And we can use a plane effector, which really doesn't give any sort of other side effects except for some simple stuff that's pretty much common in a lot of effectors. So we can get rid of this position. We want to turn color mode on. And you can have fun with other blending modes, but we're going to use add or the default. I'm pretty sure they're the same. You can get some subtle differences when you tick this. But yeah, it's all about using that color mode with the effector. Now we go to fall off, and this is where the magic really starts opening up. We're going to use a linear shape, and I'm going to explain why as soon as we get this thing to be big enough. Okay, that's too big, so now I'm going to shrink it. Alright, that's good. Once you get that, go back into it, and orientation is +Y. Now you see that yellow thing? That's actually an arrow showing that the effector goes from the bottom up. So that's what we want. Just like when we saw in the video, it lights up from the bottom upwards. Now that we have that, we're going to turn the fall off all the way to 100, which places our red down all the way at the bottom and the yellow at the top. Now what happens with the linear effector, and in our case we're actually going to define a spline to define the values that go from the red to the yellow or the yellow to the red. I found that it's easier to think of it from yellow to red in accordance to this graph, as we'll see. So right click on the spline and spline presets cubic, and then what we're going to do is let me just show you how, if I adjust this, see how the top is, I mean the left side of the graph is like where the yellow rectangle is up here. So I just moved it all the way up and we kind of got like this sort of almost whitish thing going on for us. So that's how that kind of looks. So I wanted an effect where, well, first of all, you can see how this isn't animated yet. But what's going to happen is I'm going to make this graph represent a fade in and fade out. So how I do that is just kind of, it's actually going to be inverted just because that's the way I ended up doing it the first time. So it's going to be fade out, fade in. And then I just kind of make these match, and I left it ugly because that's just the way I left it and I liked it. So as you can see up here, this fades just the same way that our graph looks. We see the goes from white to black to white again. But that's not the animated part. Once we change the spline animation speed, what's going to happen is this will sort of imagine that it kind of like moves from the yellow to the red, or from the red to the yellow, whatever way in your mind you like. So it's actually going to move, and the whole thing's going to animate in that way. And if you're like me, you just kind of work with these things intuitively, and you don't need to imagine that, like, you don't need to imagine the graphs, but I tried to explain it just for you. So I put the at 50%. The higher the number, the faster it will be. And then I just give myself some frames to work with. And we can already play this, no keyframes necessary. So now that you have that, I'm just going to really briefly tell you about one of the biggest things that I wanted to control was the amount of white bars here in contrast to the black ones. You can control that in the way you orchestrate your graph, and you can use these triangles to do stuff like that to help orchestrate it. I'm going to undo it. You can also do other things like mess with the fall off, mess with the scale. The weight kind of does things too, but I didn't find them pleasing. What else can you mess with? There's like another, oh yeah. In parameter, the use alpha strength will also change it up. Use all that to your advantage and have fun. But now that we've basically learned how to do the bulk of this tutorial, I'm just going to texture the cube, and that's about it. So double click here, make a new texture with just luminance again, and I went for like a goldish kind of look. 100%? No, I brought it down to about 77. Transparency with 1.33 refraction for that glass refraction, and I gave it a similar goldish, yellowish look. That's too yellow. Going for more like, actually that works, the combination. So, and then reflectance, we're going to hit add a legacy reflection that I actually move the specular up and say normal here, just because whatever happens is the way I liked it. And then I just turned the reflection down a little, and that was it for that. And then I just applied it to the cube, and then just line up the cube, and also go up a little, because you're gonna get these lines that look really cool if you line it up right. Usually we want to put it there, but I know that this is really where I want it. Hit it. Holy crap. So based on the graph, it came out that way. But anyways, I'm not going to get into tweaking this, just a fast tutorial, trying to do that fast, so it didn't come out the way that I wanted, but just for the sake of the tutorial, basically to make a looping animation, you just identify the pattern here, scroll through till the pattern repeats, and then export that number of frames, and then, you know, I don't even want to explain it. I should really explain it. Okay, I'll explain it. Go into render settings. You see that we're about 70 frames-ish, so 0 to 70. I'm going to do this really small resolution so it goes fast. Shift R. And then it'll render and stuff. And then, am I missing something? You would probably want to scroll up higher on the viewport to really get those background lines to make some cool suggestions. And then yeah, you basically just use these buttons here. So like, for instance, I'm just gonna stop rendering, and then I would go to the end here like that, look at it, compare it with back, and just try to line up till I get to the, you know, that perfect animation previous frame thing. And you can use these buttons to adjust your last frame, you know, and then click that, you get there, compare it with the beginning until you match just right. It's pretty intuitive. And then when you go to save it, you need to make sure that you specify the frames here. And you can change your frame rate, which is really useful for getting that right feel. Change the frame rate right here, and you can watch that. So, alright, that was the fast version of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and once again, I've been saying this because I made this tutorial like 4 times, but have a good one, and enjoy yourself. Okay, this is Bass signing off. Take care.